Hey there, this is Gabriel, King of Orion, author of Tilt, and this is going to be the third chapter, which is called Ramble On by Led Zeppelin. Mel handled the details for the visit to Santa Carla University. Compared to convincing the rest of the teachers to let their merry band miss a day of classes, the hardest part was convincing her sister to volunteer to drive the group. On the day of the trip, Dare, Mateo, Mel, Pins, Brittany, and her boyfriend, Johnny, piled into Kara's bus of a van. The twins had little in common other than their genes. Mel, when she deigned to take manual control from her car's onboard computer, was a conscientious and careful driver. On the other hand, Kara never let her car's computer do the driving for her. Kara managed to turn the 45-minute drive to Santa Carla U into a half-hour roller coaster of a ride. All the while, she blasted glitch, trap, techno, and chip tunes almost loud enough to match her voice when she yelled at other people on the road. Mateo and the rest of the teenagers piled out of the van and wobbled their way towards the main campus. Palm trees lined the boulevards, and their group passed several college students going about their day-to-day lives. Mel and Dare led the way, followed by Kara, Pins, and Mateo, while Brittany and Johnny moseyed along at the back, hand in hand. As they neared the central fountain, the people and plants became more vibrant and colorful. Men with dyed hair and women wearing bright colors strolled past flowers of paradise and other bright, cheerful blooms. Banners proclaimed an art festival would occur over the next weekend. "Waylon!" shouted Pins. She ran into the arms of what looked to Mateo to be a runaway scarecrow. He wore a ragged band t-shirt with an army surplus backpack and black-turned-gray jeans. The little skin that Pin's boyfriend had available on his stupid, spindly arms had served as his canvas. The tattoos gave the impression that he wore a mottled, long-sleeved undershirt. Waylon glanced over Pin's shoulder before fully committing to their hug. "It's good to see you, girl," said Waylon, peeling Pins off of himself. "I brought you a present." Waylon set his backpack on the sidewalk and pulled out a pair of sunglasses. Unlike any usual pair of sunglasses, these had slightly larger frames to wind down around the ears. A few thin wires curved along the top of the glasses to caress the wearer's skull. Pins froze in place for a moment, hands over her mouth. These are better than the Cyclops line. Thank you, babe. Thank you so much." Pins clutched the smart glasses and beamed at him. "Those are Edison SH8s, said Kara. "Pretty high-end stuff. They're for folks who can't get spiked for medical reasons. Cost a little more than an actual augment, too." Brittany said, "There's no way he could afford those. Are you sure he didn't steal them from somewhere?" Pins wheeled around and glared at Brittany. "Shut up," she said. "Don't spoil this. Do you have any idea?" "And what if I did, skank?" spat Waylon. "Destiny belongs to those willing to make it, take it, or break it." Johnny stepped in front of Brittany, arms low and wide. "No need to get riled up," he said. "Still, you shouldn't accept stolen goods. Believe me, I know what kind of trouble that can bring." Waylon reached toward a greasy bandana in his back pocket and stepped towards Johnny. Waylon was skinny, but had a good half foot on Johnny's spark plug build. Still, Johnny had an advantage in bulk. That would mean little if Waylon had a weapon. "Enough already," said Pins. The face paint at the tops of her cheeks blurred around the edge, smeared. "Just let me have this, all right? I don't care if he stole them. I need these." She put the SH8s on and fiddled with the wiring until it lay flat beneath her hair. "I can't believe you're going to take those," jabbed Brittany. "They're not stolen," said Waylon. The bandana was out of his pocket now, revealing a hefty padlock tied to one end. Mateo noticed his other hand held something akin to a collapsible police baton. The baton's head was covered in what looked like something one might find burnt into a frying pan. The substance seemed to ripple in the light. "You hear me? The SH8 line comes equipped with hardwired tracking signatures specifically designed to prevent theft. You should get smarter before you judge harder." Waylon waggled the padlock towards Johnny as a warning. "Come on, Pins. Let's go." As Pins and Waylon walked off, Brittany flipped them the bird. "Enough," said Mateo. "We're here to see the campus, not cause trouble." Pins glanced back at the high schoolers, and Mateo thought she might have heard him. Brittany and Johnny spent the rest of the walk to the fountain bad-mouthing Pins and her college boyfriend. Mateo, Mel, Dare, and Kara left them to it, choosing instead to keep their thoughts to themselves. The rest of the walk to the fountain was scenic. Mateo imagined himself living nearby within the year, walking those sidewalks past the grass and greenery to class. The strangers he passed ignored their little troop. Mateo wondered if one of them would ask where their parents were, take his hand like a little kid, and walk him to the nearest campus security officer. Perhaps they were blending in? He straightened his posture at the thought. They arrived about 5 minutes early, according to the little green clock that floated into Mateo's vision before he'd even realized he wondered what time it was. The 6 teenagers sat along the fountain's edge to rest. Burbling water matched the murmur of the calm crowds that passed. In the center of the fountain, a pair of statues stood side by side, arms outstretched as if waving at some unseen audience. Mateo's augment provided the names, Ramona and Alessandro, above their smiling faces. They were from a play Mateo remembered seeing once on a field trip, although the California sun and 2-hour bus ride had somewhat spoiled the experience. He remembered asking why they didn't just stream the performance. The spray of droplets from the 5 jets of water among the statues of ranchers and playing children, side characters from the play, tickled his skin. He started to count the bits of loose change in the fountain, but his augment interrupted his counting with a tally of the total numbers of quarters, dimes, nickels, and pennies, followed by the estimated value of all the coins beneath the water. Mateo's attention drifted. "Pins is going to get nothing but trouble for taking that toy," said Johnny. Brittany agreed. She pushed her arm into the crook of Johnny's bicep. "She was saving up to buy her own, you know," said Mateo. "I bet she wants an augment pretty badly." "That don't change a thing," said Johnny. "Waylon's going to get them both in trouble. She's accessory to whatever he stole to afford that thing." "How do you know he stole anything?" asked Mateo. "Did you see the way he dressed?" said Brittany. "No way he could afford those glasses on his own, let alone give them away like that." "They were expensive," said Kara. "Doesn't mean we can't give him the benefit of the doubt," Mateo shot back. "Why are you defending him?" asked Mel. Mateo paused. Even Dare had an eyebrow cocked in his direction. "It just feels like we chased Pins off is all. She might have wanted to see the campus. She said it herself earlier. Her boyfriend goes here. I doubt this is unfamiliar territory," said Mel. "Besides, people like her couldn't get into a place like this," said Brittany. "At least not for long." Mateo wanted to mention Waylon's attendance at SCU, but thought better of arguing further. His friends would point out that Waylon was the problem in the first place, and they'd be back to square one. "Where the hell is Tiffany?" said Brittany. "Did you text her?" asked Johnny. Brittany closed her eyes and fidgeted with the hem of her shirt for a moment. She scowled at the insides of her eyelids before saying, "No response. We should just go to her dorm. I know the way. Sorry, guys. She must be busy with homework or something and got distracted." Mateo glanced back towards where Pins and her boyfriend had walked off before following his friends. They passed eateries and gyms, parlors and bars. The whole way, Mateo used his augment to read customer reviews for the SH8 series, and wondered how much trouble Pins would be in if the glasses were indeed stolen. The herd of high schoolers followed Brittany to Carmen Hall, past a bored pair of college students, up to the dorm manager's desk. After a brief argument, Brittany convinced the desk jockey to look the other way while she brought the group up to see her sister. They schlepped single file up the narrow stairs to the second floor. The hallway seemed to vibrate at regular intervals, like the main artery of some gigantic heart. Apparently, Mateo was not the only one who felt the rhythm, because Dare ran a hand against the wall and tapped a finger to keep time with it as they followed Brittany to her sister's room. Mateo was about to ask what was causing the pulse when the words, "Sail by AWOL Nation," appeared in green text just off-center. The song's name didn't ring any bells for Mateo. The text continued to hover in his field of view until Brittany stopped in front of room 256B. The song's name zipped over to the door and labeled it. Wisps of neon yellow, bright pink, and olive green pixels pulsed around the edges of the doorway in time to the bass. Brittany hammered at the door. She yelled her sister's name between every 2 swings. Bam, bam, bam. No response. She gave the door a hearty kick. The pulse died out, but was quickly replaced with a new one. Brittany kicked the door in time to this new song. Red sparks seemed to rattle around the door's edges every time her foot thudded against the worn paint. Mateo's augment labeled the new songs Sordid Circus by Captain Knacker's Three Flea Band. He'd heard the song playing on the radio before. However, the music was barely recognizable, as if he were eavesdropping on a concert several blocks away. Brittany was panting by the time Johnny took over door-beating duty. She let him pound at the door until he'd stripped his knuckles before she touched his shoulder to quiet his yelling and gently pushed him off. Andy. Excuse me. He likes to talk to the neighbors. Andy, come here, bud. Come on back. Thank you, Sweet Pea. You listen so good. You're a good girl. Andy. Andy. Come and sit right next to me. Thank you, Andiferous. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Sweet Pea. Thank you, ma'am. Where was I? Oop, more pets. I only have 2 hands, and there's 2 dogs. How do I hold page? I am so close to finishing. But living art is more important than dead art. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Rest at ease. Thank you, sweetheart. She pulled a key. No, Brittany was panting by the time Johnny took over door-beating duty. She let him pound at the door until he'd stripped his knuckles before she touched his shoulder to quiet his yelling and gently pushed him off the welcome mat. She pulled a key out from under the edge of the rug and led the way into Tiffany's dorm room. The shades were drawn across the large back window. The tiny living space was filled with dancing shades of red, pink, and blue pixels that seemed to evaporate when Mateo tried to focus on any particular collection of the pigmented cells. A lithe young blonde lay entwined with a hairy guy on the couch to the right. She rubbed one hand across her breasts and swirled the other around in the air, making shapes out of the multicolored pixels that emanated from their cuddle. They were both wearing underwear, but Mateo's imagination filled in the gaps. He blushed and looked the other way. The bed on the left wasn't any less titillating. Mateo tried valiantly not to notice the pup tent the guy of the pair was resting against this other, curvier college girl. None of the writhing college kids seemed to notice their newly arrived audience. Phantom music permeated the dorm room. The song changed to dire, driving chords with rising vocals that sounded kilometers away. It seemed to come from within his own head. The words, "Sampling Tilt Broadcasts," popped up next to the arousing tableau in green text. Mateo, Johnny, Mel, Kara, Dare, and Brittany stared at the scene in dumbfounded silence. That is, until Dare guffawed and said, "What the hell are they on, and will your sister share?" Mel huffed. She shot a scowl in Dare's direction, but his slack-jawed focus left no doubt in Mateo's mind that he'd missed it. Without a word, Brittany stormed over to the little sink in the corner and filled a red Solo cup with water. Instead of walking over to the canoodlers as Mateo expected, she chucked the full cup at the blonde woman. The music stopped instantly, and Tiffany sat up straighter than an antenna. The water's effect on her bra did wonderful things with Mateo's rambunctious hormones. The sheer rage on her face, however, did not. That's Chapter 3 of Tilt. Next week is going to be Feather by Nujabes for Chapter 4. Thanks, and I hope you have a good day. Bye.